When I give speeches, I tell people all the time, I'm brilliant because I know I'm not. I'm never satisfied. I learn from people who are brilliant, and I steal knowledge from them.
There he is, Stephen A. Smith, speaking to Cuse Football about life, about motivation, about what to look forward to. This is the Pac-12 Panic Room, plus BYU, plus USU, plus Weber, JP Chunga, Mitch Harper, Utah, BYU. They have to have a pick of a broadcaster to come talk to them. Who are you picking?
Oh, this is a good one, JP. When you brought this to my attention, I thought, man, you could go a lot of different ways with this. I got to say, Joe Tess. Joe Tess, big game Joe Tess.
Yes.
He's now on Monday Night Football. As of this recording, I want to say he's calling a game that we're while we're doing this right now, the latest Panic Room. But Joe Tess, what say you, JP? What say you, BYU? What say you, Utah? Are you ready to break through in the Pac-12 South?
Swoops, dancing for the win! Texas is back, folks!
Are you ready for that challenge? Like Joe Tess, that'd be my guy.
I've got Lee Corso.
Ooh,
I would
yes.
like to hear from the mascot man. You could see him being upbeat, having a good message, wearing swoop or wearing Cosmo as a head.
Amazing.
As a gag to walk in. I could see him being very good at
The teams would lose their minds too. Social media, that is the perfect content that these teams crave on social media. Lee Corso going in a team meeting room, that would be fantastic. And a mascot head?
Flashing the U, throwing up the Y, that would be phenomenal for him. Him having a cougar tail. He's had a cougar tail in his time.
He's had one or two.
Lee Corso, for goodness sake. I would like to see one of those guys. I've got to say, if I were to match like a media personality in another team in the Pac-12, Colin Cowherd and University of Washington or
that's
USC
a good one.
would be perfect for him. You know, Clay Helton, Chris Peterson, they're gonna be elite. Sanctions or not, doesn't matter.
The mic's just sitting like right here.
Yeah. What happened at Apple when they had Steve Jobs? They had innovation. What happens when you have Clay Helton and Chris Peterson leading your schools? Innovation, trophies, championships. That would be Colin Cowherd.
Washington is Apple. That is perfect. That is a great Colin Cowherd at Washington or SC. That's just perfect.
It would be perfect for their blueprint, for their brand. But looking at the brand of the Pac-12 and the coaches' hot seats, I have this article up on ESPN 700sports.com about the coaches' hot seats. And I broke it into 3 tiers. Little cold, tepid, and then warm and hot. First, starting out with my tepid group. I have a grouping of 4. We don't have to go through each one of them here, but I've got cold as Jonathan Smith at Oregon State, Chip Kelly at UCLA, Mike Leach at Wazoo, David Shaw at Stanford, and Justin Wilcox at Cal. Anything stand out from the cold group?
You know, I think that with Chip Kelly in the cold group, I almost feel like he's got to come out guns blazing here at UCLA. I mean, with UCLA, I think they're looking for just getting back to a bowl game like they did last season. They went to the Cactus Bowl, which is now the Cheez-It Bowl that they went to a season ago. But I think that he can't afford to just have a 5-7 season, because with Chip Kelly, then the narrative would become, has he lost his step? Has college football caught up with him? Is he no longer the innovator that he was known as in the sport when he was at Oregon? So maybe a little bit, but I think that he is the best coach they've had since Derry Donahue was roaming the sideline. So it's been that alone, his brand, his status in college football maybe puts him in the cold. But I just feel like if he goes sub 500, I think there'll start to be a little bit more upset feelings in Westwood.
I looked at that and I saw UCLA. This team has only beaten USC 4 times since the last time that they won the Pac-12. 4 times. Exactly. So if he beats USC once, twice, he's already playing with house money at UCLA. And consider the market that he's in. LA. You have the stars. You have Colin Cowherd in LA, for goodness sakes. He's down there. So you have so much going on around UCLA, and USC is the blue blood program that everybody's looking for to be that standout team in the Pac-12, less expectation at UCLA.
I would also add, too, Mike Leach. I think it's interesting when I was reading your article, JP. Mike Leach cold. Last year they got, in the top 10.
Yeah.
Then they had that disastrous loss to Cal on a Friday night. Adam Amin talked about another broadcaster. That'd be fun to rile up a local team here. But Mike Leach cold, he was clearly interested in the Tennessee job.
Yeah.
Does he sense that maybe his seat is a little bit warmer than maybe we're suggesting, and he looking for the next exit possibly out of the Palouse? I wonder with Leach, but I just don't think they would find anyone better for their institution considering their financial woes right now. And also Leach just gives them instant eyeballs. Anything he's going to say something crazy in college football. Social media is going to eat it up, but part of me thinks, though, he's got to break through. That's been the common theme with his programs at Texas Tech, at Washington State. Yeah, they're always good. They're always around 7-5, 8-4. But when's he going to have that 10-win breakout season like he did at Texas Tech with Michael Crabtree? When's he going to have it at Washington State? And that door might be closed now because with Washington's emergence, Stanford's not slowing down, and Oregon continues to be on the rise, at least on the surface, with Cristobal.
He's just so quirky, and his Twitter has clearly not caused him any problems, at least with Washington State. He can tweet whatever he wants, that he is so entrenched in the Palouse culture. I listened to Bill Riley's interview with him last year, and he's saying hi to baristas and walkers by as he's doing the interview. That shows me he has a very good connection with Washington State, and he could be fine just being there and living off of what he's got there. Looking at the next grouping, I have a tepid group, and in this group, I have Kyle Whittingham, Mike McIntyre, and Kevin Sumlin. I'll start out with Kyle Whittingham, obviously, because of Utah. It's at a higher hot seat ranking than usual because of the fact that this team has expectations now. This team is expected to be in the upper half of the Pac-12 South, even picked, at least by their fans, to win it. Expectations are there, and now is the time for Kyle Whittingham to feel a little bit of that heat underneath.
Yeah, unlike Mike Leach, the window is now open in the Pac-12 South for Kyle Whittingham in this Utah program. And I think you make a great point because anything less than a Pac-12 South title, it almost feels like fans will be very disappointed. I think that would be a huge accomplishment to get it done, but even getting 9 wins would be a huge accomplishment any year in a Power 5 conference like the Pac-12. But, yeah, I think that there is a pocket of Utah fans that are not really happy with just winning bowl games and beating BYU. They want something more. They want something that puts Utah back in that spotlight like they were in 2015 when they were the number 3 team in the country. But even in that game against USC, what were they, an underdog? And I think it speaks to how maybe the program is viewed. It's still kind of a regional program. They want to get it to that national level because the recruiting is going up. Now they want to see that performance on the field go up as well. So, yeah, I could see that because Whittingham is stable. He's got a new leadership group with Mark Harlan as the athletic director, but you got to break through, and you got to make that new boss happy. You don't ever want to have any sort of break or chinks in that chain for Kyle Whittingham, and I think that this is a year where he's got to really break through and get that at least 9 wins to really continue to make the fans base happy.
And with a new athletic director comes, obviously they want to have their guy, but obviously Kyle Whittingham is a legend here.
Sure.
2008, everybody remembers it, just how long he has been at this program. But athletic directors can get a little bit mouthy, as you saw Chris Hill yelling at officials at a basketball game. You have the situation down at Oklahoma State where their athletic director is taking on Mike Gundy's approach to recruiting. Athletic directors get a little mouthy. I'm not saying that Mark Harlan is going to pop off, but he has a podcast now, so
you're going to hear it.
Things might get spicy when he announces his opinions there. Who knows how hot his takes are. I know you were interested in where I would put Mike McIntyre. Him being in this group, I see it as just the fact that Colorado doesn't go to bowl games. He took them to the Pac-12 championship game. That gives him a little clout for me for that CU Buffs team. And
he overcame the issues off the field similar to that of Ohio State, and it really is forgotten now around Colorado's program. He's overcome that, and I think Colorado will be in contention maybe going into that Utah game to possibly get back to bowl eligibility and get back to the postseason. So, but I just think that with McIntyre, is it a case of he's done the best that he can, and his best days in Boulder are already in the rearview mirror. It feels like he just started there, but when you do compare him to the likes of who they had, Keith, what was it, Embry, and then you had the mess with Neuheisel back in the day, and
Dan Hawkins.
It's just there's been some messes at Colorado. It's been a long time since the days of Gary Barnett and going to Rose Bowl, or not going to big bowl games and Big 12 championship games. So it's been a long time.
To win, this team needs an extra down. They need
that fifth down.
They need a fifth down to get things done. And it might be the same on the field this year for this Colorado team. All right, looking at the warm and the hot underneath this next group, I've got Herm Edwards, Chris Peterson, Mario Cristobal, and Clay Helton, all in the hot and warm category.
I was very excited to talk about this. Chris Peterson in the hot seat. Explain this to me, JP.
All right, so Chris Peterson, already my nemesis from earlier in Pac-12 media days.
I would give a right arm for in the long run. This is hard to do with the guy right in your face and talking.
I talk to him every. You should try talking to him every day. He does this whether we're on air or not.
He has the entire Pac-12 season on his shoulders in week 1. UW-Auburn is an elimination game for the Pac-12, whether they're going to be in the playoff. Because honestly, as you're looking at it right now, this conference might be the bottom of the Power 5. And when you're going straight up in a debut game with all the eyes, with all of the committee members watching, you lose that game, bang. The entire brand of the Pac-12 can take a hit in just one game. And that's up to Chris Peterson to win. And it comes down to whether he can get Jake Browning to win that big game, Softy. It's all about that team in week 1 for this entire conference. And due to that, he is in this hot and warm category.
I like the viewpoint, because with Chris Peterson and Washington, they do carry the weight of this conference in week 1. We saw it in the AP poll. I mean, Washington, preseason favorite, a team that's already shown they can get to the playoff within the last 2 years, but still picked at number 6 in the AP poll. And I know that the AP poll doesn't factor into the playoff, but it's a testament, I think, to the perception of the conference entering the season. And you can't tell me that AP polls don't weigh on the conscience of the committee. The committee is not watching every single game as much as we would like to think that's the case. They just aren't. So that's the perception of the conference going into week 1. So, yeah, I think that's a great point with Chris Peterson. He does carry a lot of weight, but I do think, though, regardless whether or not Washington gets to the playoff or anyone from the Pac-12 gets to the playoff this year, I think Peterson at Washington, you see what he's doing in recruiting. He's a perfect fit there. I never thought he was going to leave Boise State, but Washington, as far as the way they recruit, the connections he had in that area, and then also connections down in Los Angeles, Chris Peterson's building a powerhouse. They are the premier school out in the West Coast in college football right now, even better than USC, which then leads me to the guy that was on that hot list as well, hot seat list, Clay Helton. I think Clay Helton deserves to be here, because you look at USC coaches since Pete Carroll, the common denominator for me is that they're getting talent, great, sure, but they're not developing that talent. That's where Clay Helton, can he maximize the talent on this roster? The jury's still out, because USC, their fan base, they view themselves in the echelon of the Ohio States, of the Alabamas. Yeah. That's how they view themselves, and we've seen how that goes. They play Alabama, they play Ohio State. It's ugly. It doesn't look pretty. Maybe it's just in that Texas Jerry World Stadium they got to get out of, but that's how that program views themselves, and they're nowhere near that. And if they're not even getting in the same stratosphere as those Alabamas and Ohio States, Clay Helton's job will always be a little bit uneasy, despite coming off a Pac-12 championship a season ago.
And he hasn't lost a game at the Coliseum. All of this pressure is considering the fact that he's had success.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing about USC. You know the expectation. It's national championship. It's Pac-12 championship. That should be coming at a baseline level, because you're getting those 5-star recruits. You're getting the blue chip talent. It isn't like at Utah where you have to go in late on guys and hope that they pick your program, like Solomon Enos and Jack Tuttle. Those are big gets for Utah. At USC, every single year that they're getting these guys, they've got to deliver when you have Clay Helton at USC, and he's got to get it done.
Well, I'm surprised that we're even having this conversation just 2 years removed from Sam Darnold's first game. I remember that night at Rice Eccles. Lendell White was with me. I thought, they got to fire Clay Helton. He's got to go. Lendell White, the former Trojan running back, went to Twitter and was asking for Helton to get canned because they lost to Utah, and they were 1-4 at the time. And I thought, this guy is done. He's in over his head, but continued to battle back. I want to say they had a 10-win season that year, and then in the Rose Bowl, and then they go on to win a Pac-12 title, the first in about a 10-year span, and Troy. So Helton has had success, but again, USC views themselves as a national power, and they haven't been anywhere near the national championship conversation in quite some time, and I think that's the big issue. And can they maximize the player development? Because Utah, like you mentioned, they're probably the best in the country at player development. Yep. We've had Dave Bartu, College Football Matrix guy, hop on, and the numbers even suggest that Utah is number one in the country in player development. USC, if they had a half the player development program as Utah, they're right there with Bama. It's just a matter of player development. Can Helton get the most out of these guys?
And looking at Herm Edwards, because I wanted to touch on the crazy experience that's going to be at ASU. He has to deliver because of all of his weird quotes.
Football hasn't changed. As long as we're talking about it. It's a football game, right? It's college football.
I'm not understanding that recruiting is a full-time job and how much you have to do at the college football level.
And Sun Devil Digest, he thought, I don't think he honestly knew that their team was the Sun Devils. He was like, you got to check out God, man, or I couldn't believe it.
I'm a Christian.
Bizarre.
It's not as if the AD's going to pull the plug because coaching agent when he was at that level. But if you have weird press conferences and just losses, things are going to stack up on him because he is such a high-profile guy that it's going to be a train wreck or just spectacular, and it needs to be spectacular for him to keep his job.
Well, and I think also you bring up an interesting point about press conferences because everyone is going to watch Herm Edwards and analyze what he's saying because it's been so bizarre thus far. I mean, Pac-12 Media Day, you can go listen on the ESPN 700 Pac-12 Media Day page. His interview with Bill and Gunther and Ben was just absolutely nuts. I mean, you were there seeing it firsthand in person, and I was picturing here in the studio, I was like thinking, what is JP thinking? What are these guys thinking hearing Herm talk about, what was it, religion and being a pastor, and we're going to throw the ball to number one? I'm thinking, you got to do a lot more than just throw it to number one, man.
It's easy. I know the offense. Just throw it to one. Just throw it to one. He said in the NFL, they would just hand the ball to Curtis Martin. That's how he had success. Herm was a 500 head coach. He was 8-8. He was Jeff Fisher. Without a mustache.
Yeah.
Look at that when you consider what you're going to get at ASU. And they weren't satisfied with Todd Graham, who was winning territorial cups, which is against your main rival, and he was still recruiting at a decent level to get N'Keal Harry, to get Manny Wilkins, to get Kalen Balaj. I mean, he was doing enough to keep his job. It just came into friction with the AD.
Yeah, Herm Edwards is going to be fascinating to see what he does. And I'm really curious to see what this whole GM overseeing the program.
Strange way that they're going to be doing things.
The press release of him being announced and the way he's going to run the program, it's just very unique, and it could set a trend in college football. Who knows? If it works, someone's going to copy it. Someone's going to think, okay, well, we're going to do that too. We're going to try it out as well. If it can work at ASU, maybe it can work here. So could be really interesting. If it does work, if he gets to 7-5 somehow, man, that'd be a huge year, I think, for Herm, because right now, being a preseason cellar dweller pick in the Pac-12 South, which I think is right. I mean, I just think what they're doing down there is just so unheard of, and him and his resume with college football is just so limited. And he's even said it himself, recruiting has just been a lot tougher than he expected, learning the nuances and cadence to what goes on in recruiting. That's a whirlwind.
You have to do it every single day. Yeah, pretty much. You have to communicate with these prospects, open the door, find them, realize who's in your back door. Because a guy like Solomon Enos, who was in his footprint in Arizona, loses out to Utah.
Yeah.
That shouldn't happen if you're ASU and if you want to be a good program. Look at Gunnar Romney.
Yeah.
Gunnar Romney shouldn't be lost to BYU when it comes to just having the guys locked up locally, the hometown heroes, as Utah likes to phrase them. Herm Edwards has a big job, and he's got Kevin Sumlin to deal with.
Yeah, Kevin Sumlin, too, is going to be interesting and see what he can do with this. And he fell in the tepid portion of your list. But yeah, Herm Edwards, what he does. If he does have success in year one, though, when you talk about recruiting, I think he is someone personality-wise that'll win over parents in the recruiting process. The kids, maybe not so much, but the parents, they'll really like Herm Edwards. So it's going to be a big year one for him because sometimes you just see it in other conferences. You look at Mike Riley a few years back in Nebraska. That was a bizarre hire in its own right. Not as bizarre as this, but it felt strange when Nebraska hired Mike Riley and let go of Bo Pelini, who was a consistent 9-10 win coach. And then year one, you saw him take a huge dip. If that happens here, it's going to instantly, people are going to be asking for Herm Edwards' head.
Bo Pelini, if memory serves, he also had problems with the fans, right?
Yes, he did. He was getting recorded, and he was calling him out. Yeah, I mean, maybe Herm, I wouldn't be surprised if someone does a secret recording on him. That's bound to happen with Herm.
Does he know about booster meetings?
It's going to be amazing to watch this.
That's going to be something to look forward to. I would have next year when we're doing which broadcaster do we want at Utah or BYU, Herm Edwards might be back in that category.
That is a very, very good point, JP.
Looking forward to the college football season. Next time we're on the Pac-12 Panic Room, we'll be talking about college football week 0.
It's here.
It's here. Saturday we'll be having college football games. Breaking it down for you on the next edition of the Pac-12 Panic Room plus BYU plus USU plus Weber. For Mitch, I'm JP. Comments below. Like and subscribe. See ya.